Hello everybody, I am Jason Trueblood here with Black Dog Designs, and today we're going to be going over how to create your own social media posts using Adobe Photoshop and a couple of other different methods that are really easy and really smooth for anyone to use. So a little bit about myself. I've been designing social media assets or sales and marketing collateral or presentations for the last 5 years. I've been freelancing with this business and consulting with other businesses for the last 2 years. I've worked with 50 plus clients all over the world during that time. You know, it's really cool, and what's really different in my opinion is I don't have a traditional graphic design background. I'm self-taught through videos and courses like this, YouTube and Udemy and Skillshare and all these different courses and all these different places, and I've wrapped all these skills together and really learned how to do it more efficiently and more effectively. So getting started, we're going to go over the high level stuff, and we'll dive into this more in detail during the actual course. But step one, make sure you have Adobe Photoshop. If you don't have it, go get it. Go to adobe.com. It's only $10 a month. You can just get Photoshop and Lightroom. It's pretty cheap. Two, we're going to go through how to a quick Photoshop tour. Then we're going to work through our file setup and how that all works. Then we're going to show you how to save your PSD file as a template so you don't have to recreate it each time you want to make a post. So let's dive into this course and see what it's all about. Alright, so getting started, the first thing that we need to make sure that you have set up on your computer is Adobe Photoshop. Adobe has a bunch of Creative Cloud plans where you can get all of their different softwares, or some of them, but for this course all we need is Adobe Photoshop. So if you go to adobe.com and navigate over to their Creative Cloud, you'll arrive on this screen here. And so we're going to want to come down here to the bottom and look at see all products, because again we're just looking for the Photoshop, and I believe it comes with Lightroom. So over here on the left for individuals, we're looking for the photography plan. 20 gigabytes is just fine. Yep, so this comes with Photoshop and Lightroom. We're not going to be going over anything in Lightroom in this particular course, but it's the Photoshop software that you need. So you just click buy now, download it. That's if you don't have Photoshop set up. If you have it set up, that's great. We're going to go ahead and dive into a little bit of tour of Photoshop. But again, if you don't have it, go ahead and download it, and then pause this course and pick it back up once you have Adobe Photoshop all set up and ready to rock. So now that you have Photoshop downloaded and opened up on your laptop or desktop, we're ready to dive in. So we're just going to do a quick little tour right now of all the different features in Photoshop, what we're going to be using. So we're not going through everything in Photoshop, because obviously there's a lot of features involved in this software, but we're just going to be going through the basics of what we're going to be using and how we're going to be using it. So over here on the left hand side of the screen, there's a toolbar. You can customize it up here in view along the top part of the menu there. I've just customized the features that I use a lot over here in the toolbar. Obviously we have file. This is where you save, open different images, export, etc. Edit. You can edit individual portions. You can transform or rotate. That's canvas specific features there. Image. This is where you can edit specific parts of an image, like the contrast or the brightness or the shadows. You can do a lot of different things in there. Layer is if you get a bunch of different layers going on inside your Photoshop image, you can group them together and then name the groups so that you can search through and find different things that you want to edit within your image. We're not going to be using type or select or filter or 3D or view in this particular course. So that's just a really quick tour. Again, what we're going to be doing in Photoshop is really a small portion of what this software has to offer, so we're not going to be going too in-depth on the different features and functionalities of Photoshop, just what we're going to be using in this course. So getting started here, our end goal is to create a social media asset. Some of those might have text on them, some of them might just be an image. We're going to go through a couple different scenarios and figure out how to put them all together. So first thing we want to do is create our canvas. So we're going to go to File, New, and this populates a window and allows us to create a new document here. You can set up different templates here in Photoshop if you use roughly the same image over and over and over again. But for this we're going to use we're just going to enter it in manually. So social media likes square images. Social media platforms like Instagram and Facebook don't like images that are really disproportionate because it's hard for them to display on their user interface. So what I always do is create square images. So we're going to go with inches, and we're going to go with 5 inches by 5 inches, and then the resolution is pixels per inch, and 300 is the max in Photoshop. So we want to create the highest quality social media graphic that we can. So we're going to use 300, and then we hit create, and it populates a square that's 5 inches by 5 inches and has a 300 dpi resolution. So this is our basic template. It's really easy to create. Obviously we did it in about 10 seconds. But now the next step, and this is really handy if you're creating a lot of social media images, is to save this as a template. So that way you don't have to go through those steps every time. It just saves a little bit of time down the road, and if you're creating a lot of them, it'll save you a lot of time. So we're going to go to File, we're going to go to Save As, and we're going to navigate to the place where we're going to save these on our desktop. So now that we've arrived at where we want to save this on our desktop, we're just going to label this as social media template. And put workable on there so we know it's editable. We'll save it as a PSD file, which allows it to be workable if you open it again in the future. So there we go. We've created our canvas. We've saved the canvas as a template so we can open it up and use it later on. And later on in this course, I'm going to be showing you a couple of other templates, ways to save these as templates, so it'll allow you to move a little bit quicker and really pop these things out at the speed that you want. So now that we have our canvas and we're ready to roll here, we're just going to make a really basic social media post. And let's just pretend this is for a business and we want to just say something about our brand. So we're going to use a white background. And so over here on the left hand side, this little T is our text box. So we're going to create a text box, and you just click, you left click and hold down to drag it across the screen. And this isn't set in stone. You can adjust the size of your text box later on. Typically what I do is I put it as big as possible and then I'll shrink it down over time. It just makes it easier to type in. So right now when we created the text box, it defaulted to 90 point font, which is obviously entirely too big. So over here at the top of the screen, we are going to click the font size and we're going to drop it down to 30 point font. And we want to change our font. So over here along the top on the left hand side, we're going to change it to this font. I have no idea how to say this font. It's something sans, Fira sans, whatever. But that's the font we're going to be using for this. So we're going to go ahead and click that. We're going to left align it so we can text or type. And so now we've got our text box created. We've got our font. We've adjusted our font size. Now we just want to type out the message. Let's make up a business here. This is a, let's say, interior design business. So we're just going to type out a message here. So we have a little problem now that we've typed out all of our text here. So the spacing obviously is really off. So what we want to do is come over to the top right corner of Photoshop here and select the character icon. This is going to open up the character editing window, which will allow us to do a bunch of different things, and we'll talk about this more in depth as we progress here. But over here on the right hand side of this window it says 190 points, and then has a little arrow, I guess two arrows going either way, with a couple of A icons in there. That's talking about line spacing. So right now, the reason our sentences or our lines of copy are so far apart is because the line spacing's off. So we want to go ahead and shrink that down to a normal size here. And so we're just going to do that. We'll space it out a little bit. So there we go. We have our first basic group of copy inside our image here. So now that we have our copy, we actually want to make this copy black. So we're going to click the text icon on the left-hand toolbar again, and we're going to highlight all the text, and we're going to come up here to where it is gold, and we're going to pick like kind of a flat black looking color. Boom. And since we're just using a white background and font and copy, we want to go ahead and increase the font size a little bit just to make it seem a little bit more full. And we're going to move this down so the spacing's a little bit better. And we're going to increase the line spacing. Boom. Okay. So now we have our image kind of edited the way we want it, and we have the copy. We're gonna make some small tweaks to this to really make it stand out. So we got our copy in here, and for this example, let's just imagine that our interior design company, their colors are like this flat black that we already used for the text, and let's just say a red color. So what we want to do to really make this thing jump a little bit more off the page is we want to highlight a specific portion of the text. So we just want to highlight the personality portion of the text. And then down here in the bottom left corner is another place you can change color, but we're just going to do it from the top again. So we're going to click on this black, and we're going to change this to like a darker red color. There we go. So by doing this, we can mess with and fiddle with the different aspects of the copy, so we can draw attention and emphasis to specific portions of the image. So again, this is just a really basic social media post, or some graphic that you can share or use however you want. But again, the purpose of this course is primarily to create social media posts for your brands that look really good and really clean. So if we just want to take this a step further, we can do a couple of different things. If your brand, or let's just pretend this interior design company has a little bit of personality and likes to do things that aren't like, always traditional. So let's highlight the personality text that we already made red, and we're going to make that a little bit bigger so it calls it out a little bit more. And then we're going to recenter it on the page there. It's a little too big. I'm actually going to shrink that. We made it a little too big, so we're going to bring it back down. It's 47 now, so we're just going to go with 43. Boom. And something else that's really cool is up here under View, in the top toolbar here, you can allow the rulers. That's this ruler at the top of the screen and on the left-hand side of the screen. And that'll give you a judge of where things lay out on the page. But what's really handy is you can implement guidelines. So if you left click and hold down on the ruler, you can implement guidelines, and this will allow you to ensure that all your copy is lined up in Photoshop, which is extremely helpful for creating these sorts of things. So I'm really comfortable with where this is. Again, our goal for this specific example, and we're going to go through like 4 or 5 other ones, is just to create a really basic post that says something about your brand. So in this case, we wanted to say something like, since we're pretending this is an interior design company, we wanted to say, make sure your house is as stunning, or make your house as stunning as your personality. Just something to push the brand content out there, the brand message out on social media. Really basic. Obviously, now that we've gone through this, it only takes a couple of seconds. So now we're going to go through how to export and save your image. So saving and exporting your image is really simple in Photoshop. It makes it really easy. Keep in mind we first save this as a template. So we're going to want to we don't want to overwrite the template that we already saved. So we're going to go to File and we're going to go to Save As, and it takes us back to the folder that we saved our template, which is fine. So right here we're just going to title this Brand Message 1. There's something really simple, and for this one we're going to save it as a Photoshop file, so if we realize that there's a spelling mistake or something down the road, we can reopen it and it'll show us exactly where we left off. So there we go, we've saved it as a Photoshop file. So now we want to export it so we can actually use it. So we're going to go to File, Export, and then we're going to go to Export As. And here's a bunch of different options. Most of the time the default options are exactly what I go with. Nothing too crazy here, except for the top under Format. We want to save it as a JPEG, not a PNG, just to ensure that there's nothing crazy going on, there's no transparency that we've allowed, those sorts of things. Here, so if for whatever reason you've created too big of an image to upload on an Instagram or a Facebook, you can adjust the quality here. And really what that'll do is just shrink the overall size of the file down so you won't have any trouble uploading it. Most of the time if you create it at 5 inches by 5 inches or under, you're not going to have any issues. But if you do for whatever reason, here's a good place where you can adjust it. So we're just going to go down here at the bottom and export all, and we are going to so now that we're at the file that we want to export this, since it's finished, we want to go to Finish, and we're just going to title this the exact same thing, Brand Message 1, and save it. And that's exporting it. It has been exported. If you want to go check out the file and make sure it's done right, we can go down to our file manager here and go to Finished, and we can pop this image open. And there we go. There's our social media image ready to be posted. Thank you for checking this video out on YouTube about how to create social media posts using Adobe Photoshop. There's a full class available on this. We just touched on a few key points, but there's a full class on this available over at Udemy. Links in the bio along with a discount code, so feel free to click that and use the discount code to go over and get a nice sweet course on how to create this stuff using Photoshop. And there's some really cool bonus content that'll give you a leg up, and a couple little hacks that maybe if you're not all the way up on Photoshop, there's a couple other ways to do it. So feel free to click that link, check it out, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for watching.